All right, my beautiful friends. We just pressed the let's go live button, so let's wait for those tubes to fire up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs. Before we go ahead and get started, we got some good stuff to attend to today. We have a fresh one out of the oven. Yesterday on the show, we went through a removal request from Donald Trump saying we wanted to take his New York criminal conviction case away from Judge Merchan before the sentencing occurs and bring it up to federal court. The judge just rejected that this afternoon. We're going to go through it and we're going to see what the prosecutors in New York say because they're pushing back on this. They're saying that Trump's sentencing should happen on schedule on September 18th, any day now. It should be happening. So it's going to be right around the corner. And one of the options to stop the sentencing from happening has now been denied, removed. So the next question is, what is Judge Merchan going to do? And what are Trump's other options? So we'll go into all of it. Then we're going to talk about this CCP spy, this Chinese spy. This story is insane. Apparently there was this woman called Linda Sun. She just got indicted or was indicted before, but they just unsealed the indictment. She had court today. The feds raided her house. The reason, I mean, there's CCP spies all over the place, right? All over the place. We know this, not a big deal. It is a big deal, but this one's a real big deal because this woman was a senior advisor to Kathy Hochul, the New York governor, and Andrew Cuomo, the prior outgoing New York governor, Mr. Cuomo, remember him? And this is a big deal because she was actually advising them and sort of deviating their schedules, and she just got indicted. So it's pretty shocking how embedded the Chinese are, and I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg. So we'll talk about that. And then Elon Musk had a very nice victory against, that organization called Media Matters. They clip conservatives out of context and they turn it into a big ordeal when they say nothing critical at all, but then they turn it into something and they try to get people canceled and censored, and they're just kind of a bunch of losers over there. But they have now lost their attempt to dismiss Elon Musk's lawsuit against them. So we're going to go through that order. It came out from a judge in the great state of Texas. And so we'll go through that opinion. We'll see what's happening all across the fruited plains of the interwebs, the legal webs, and elsewhere. And today we're going to work very hard on two things. One, we're going to try not to mute ourselves this stream. Yesterday, that was totally intentional, though. I wanted to do a take on that segment, and I did. I was kind of embarrassed about it, so I wanted to just try it and do a dry run on it, and then we nailed it the second time after we turned the mic back on. But so thanks for that, and hopefully we're also live on Rumble today. We had a little bit of a technical snafu yesterday, but we're alive over there. We're running up, and okay, all right, come on. All right, unplug it, plug it back in, blow the dust out, plug it back in. All right. Let's see what we've got coming up. Now, we've got a bunch of good stuff, as you saw, so we're going to get into all that today. Before we get into that, I have a question for you, my friends. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s, watch this, and he's still kicking butt, and he's working out and staying active. Look at him. Look at him. He looks amazing. Now, what's even more shocking is that our friend Chuck Norris he's even stronger than ever. He can work out longer. He's got plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. And he did all this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner. She has energy all day long. And so Chuck made this special video just for you and for us. And you can go watch it. He's going to explain everything. Make sure you check it out. There's a link down in the description, but just check it out. It's chuckdefense.com/RG. Just click the link in the description wherever you're watching this. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/RG. Head on over there. You're going to watch this video. You're not going to believe how simple it is. It's the legendary Chuck Norris. He's a whopping 84 years old. He's got more energy than I do, backflipping and, you know, vertical click kicking and all that. He discovered he could create more dramatic changes to his health simply by focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. And so watch his method. Just click the link. Check it out in the description box below. chuckdefense.com/RG. chuckdefense.com/RG. Chuck Norris is the man. So check it out. And of course, thanks to our sponsors over there and our friend Chuck Norris. All right. So we've got some great stuff to attend to today, my friends. And we're starting off with this one fresh out of the oven. This one literally dropped as we were sitting down. And so let's talk about it. Donald Trump's attempt to remove his case from Judge Merchan in New York to take it away from him before the sentencing occurs on September 18th has been rejected by the federal courts. And prosecutors are pretty happy about this because they want to keep that scheduling date on track. We see here that Alvin Bragg's office in this New York criminal prosecution is also responding in a letter saying that we want to keep this train on the track. So we're going to go through some of these filings and see what else is happening in New York. But let's see what this big one is. Remember, Trump has a sentencing coming up. He's been allegedly convicted, as the left likes to say. We don't say the conviction is happening until after sentencing occurs. But a jury came back, returned verdicts on 34 counts, and Trump is yet to be sentenced. So he's got a couple options he's trying to do to stop the sentencing from happening. One, of course, is just asking for a continuance. There's no good reason for Judge Merchan to have this sentencing before the election, in the middle of an election, to try to theoretically incarcerate the leading candidate by many polls in the entire country. So as just a normal function of democracy, just let the people vote on this, right? If the people think that Trump is a bad person, they'll vote him out. And you can, of course, pick up the prosecution right after the election. No harm, no foul. You just have to pause it for a little bit. We've already got precedent for this. They paused all investigations of Joe Biden back in 2020. But I digress. So Trump has that option. Trump has tried to appeal this to higher courts, and we're waiting on those within the state. And now he's been also trying to appeal this, or basically ask the federal courts to remove this. And we read through that filing. And we did that on yesterday's show, and it was a good filing from Trump. If you missed it, you can read it, check it out, but it's been denied. So this judge was up all night long, working feverishly. He's like, oh, Trump's going to try to escape this one. So type in this thing up, boom, files it immediately. Trump files, boom, it's immediate. Drops everything else and rejects it. You can see this is the order denying Trump's motion for leave to file the removal papers. Now, Trump has already been denied this once before, and he just got denied again. It says former President Trump, this is what the judge says, is again seeking to remove the criminal case against him, to take it away from, in our opinion, the very biased Judge Merchan, the man who donated to Joe Biden, the man who criticized Trump to his daughter that she discussed on a podcast, the same man whose daughter works for Democrats as co-owner of Authentic Campaigns, or partner, or whatever her role is there. It's a big one. And they've made millions of dollars from Democrats and raised and solicited funds on the back of Trump's prosecution in this courtroom. So he wants to remove it, take it up to the feds. Now, upon removal, this judge says, as the district judge to whom this case was assigned, my task was to examine this promptly. And he says, if it clearly appears on the face of the notice that removal should not be permitted, then I am to make an order for summary remand. And if it's not appropriate, then I'll have an evidentiary hearing, and then we can discuss this later. Now, since Trump filed his notice after he was tried, all right, so Trump is saying, we want to remove this from Merchan's court before the sentencing. The process is still ongoing. The sentencing has not occurred yet. They say Trump must show good cause and seek leave from the district court to file the notice at a later time. Now, the second notice may only argue the things. So they say Trump now seeks leave from this court to file a second notice. Now, the judge is saying, I already denied you the first time. So why are you coming back here a second time again? saying, well, if you have good cause, I can accept it, but let me go through this. He says, well, first, he asserts that Trump says New York courts were biased against him and it was an improper trial. And this is obviously true because of what I just described with Judge Merchan. The entire prosecution was rigged. Alvin Bragg made it a part of his campaign. He was referenced Trump many times during this. He was asked about it. And he was kind of coy about it, but, I've got the most experience with Trump. I was involved in the civil cases, and so I know how to take him down, blah, blah, blah. Okay, constantly. And then in this prosecution, they had to regurgitate some ancient charges that are way beyond the statute of limitations, using some small subsection of the law to get past the statute of limitations. And in exploiting that provision, they reference federal crimes over which they have no jurisdiction. And the judge also said that there didn't even need to be unanimity between any of the elements of the underlying offense, which was a federal crime alleged that the feds didn't allege, which was not part of their jurisdiction, that they allowed anyways. Okay, the whole thing was rigged. Not on top of that, we also had immune evidence that was introduced with Madeleine Westerhout, Hope Hicks. They brought in Michael Cohen, a convicted perjurer, and Stormy Daniels, who made up new stuff like suddenly she got attacked when that never happened before. And they're going to say, yeah, that's pretty biased, right? Trump's been gagged the whole time. The list can go on and on. Now, as support for this argument, they say Trump says that Judge Merchan had a conflict of interest, in presiding over the trial. Why? Because the judge's daughter, gave some statements about her father's views of the politician's use of Twitter. Said that on a podcast. Lauren was saying, my dad thinks it's kind of improper, unbecoming of a president to communicate this way using X. Also, the judge is biased because the judge's daughter worked for Kamala's presidential campaign in 2019, and because the judge donated to Democrats twice, in particular Joe Biden, who up until recently, before he was thrown out, was Trump's political opponent. Now, Mr. Trump also states that Merchan failed to conduct a proper pretrial review of presidential immunity because Trump said, I'm immune multiple times. The judge said, stop bringing it up, and prohibited Mr. Trump for pursuing interlocutory review of that decision. And this is exactly right. This is all true, by the way. Like factually, you can't argue with it. Judge Chutkan, when Trump brought up immunity, Judge Chutkan paused the whole thing, allowed it to go up to the Supreme Court. That's whatever you want to say about Judge Chutkan, and we got a lot to say about her. That was the right call. That was exactly what she was supposed to do. She was angry about it as hell. She was furious about it. She was doing everything she could to avoid it. Then Trump came back. They had that new Coinbase case from 2023. They're like, sorry, Judge. You're sorry. You have to. And she's like, and then she did. And then Jack Smith was even trying to file motions under her nose. And she's like, you have to stop. Sorry. Okay. Like, yeah, they're right. So all of that. Now, this is the same exact thing. And there's immune conduct in this trial. Literally, they talked about Madeleine Westerhout and Hope Hicks. Those were two official people who worked in the White House. They talked about their jobs in the White House. That's all official. Should have all never come in. And this Merchan judge from the state court just allowed it and just said, well, we'll deal with it after the fact. It was totally rigged. He should have done what Chutkan did. And honestly, that should happen now, right now, at this moment. Second, Mr. Trump argues that the immunity case also grants him immunity from prosecution. It does. And so they say, well, this court, this federal court now that was up all night typing this, does not have jurisdiction to hear Trump's arguments concerning the propriety of the trial. The jurisdiction possessed by the district courts is strictly original, meaning we look at it anew. We don't look at what the old people did, what the old case law did, or what the old trial courts did. We just look at it fresh with a fresh set of eyes. District courts may not reverse or modify state judgments, even those containing constitutional infirmities, because to do so would be an exercise of appellate jurisdiction and not federal removal jurisdiction, right? If you're unhappy with the trial, appeal it, which Trump is, and it's going nowhere because it's also the New York courts, which are very happy with all these outcomes and this rigging. Now, instead, they say the proper recourse for parties seeking to remedy alleged errors made during a state trial is to pursue a state appeal, or at the highest level, to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, which is where Trump's going to have to go. It would be highly improper for this court to evaluate the issues of bias unfairness or error in the state trial, they say that's not what we're here for. Okay, if Trump's unhappy with the trial, he should go to the Court of Appeals in New York, and then to actually in New York, the Supreme Court is called the Court of Appeals. So, right, work his way up to the top there, and then once the Court of Appeals, aka the state Supreme Court, says no, then you go and appeal from them to SCOTUS. Now, those are issues for the state appellate courts, and so accordingly, only the second ground argued by Trump deserves attention. And so if you're unhappy with the lower level trial, take it up with the state courts. Now, similarly, they say, so let's talk about immunity and what the Supreme Court said, because we've made the argument that Trump has immunity because of the fact that they brought in a bunch of official conduct into the conversation, presented it as evidence at trial. So they say in Trump, in this immunity case, right, the Supreme Court held that a former president is entitled to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions taken in exercise of his core constitutional powers. So if the president, it's delegated, right? If it's delineated, you can do this, you can't be prosecuted for that because it's explicitly your right to at least, so that's bucket one. So this is what the immunity decision said. So that's bucket one. Absolute immunity for bucket one. Now, this doesn't mean, and you hear this stupid talking point from MSNBC regularly, I guess Trump can just murder people. No, that's not what this says, okay? Read it. Or bucket two, to at least presumptive immunity for acts within the outer perimeter of his official responsibility. That's bucket two. And to no immunity for his official acts, unofficial acts, right? So that's if you shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue or whatever, you're not allowed to do that. So you don't get immunity for that. So criminal courts trying former presidents are required to evaluate his actions to distinguish official from unofficial conduct. Now, guess what? Criminal courts like Mercan's didn't do that. They didn't do that, or they didn't do it through an evidentiary hearing. Let's see what they say the proper evaluation is. Now, the outer perimeter of the former president's official responsibilities extends to those actions that were not manifestly or palpably beyond his authority, which is broad. Okay, so it's like if it's not obviously not your responsibility, like you don't have that power, obviously, then it's probably immune. So it's very powerful. Now, private schemes with private actors unconnected to any statutory or constitutional authority or function of the executive are considered unofficial acts. So if Trump, I can see where this is going, is scheming with Michael Cohen to cover up a porn star situation unconnected to any authority, then that's unofficial. So let's see what he says. Now, I held in my order before, about a year and 2 months ago, that hush money paid to an adult film star is not related to a president's official acts, which is this judge. Who is this judge? Alvin Hellerstein. Okay. Alvin. He's like a bro with Alvin Bragg. Okay, they're like first name brothers. I get it totally. All right. So he says, it does not reflect in any way the color of the president's official duties. Now, my holding followed an evidentiary hearing where Alvin Bragg showed conclusively that Trump reimbursed Cohen for advancing hush money payments, including 2 checks signed in the White House by Mr. Trump. Now, I held Mr. Trump had not satisfied the burden of proof to show the basis of removal during that last evidentiary hearing. Now, my holding of hush money reimbursement remains true regardless of who has the burden, whether it's the people or Mr. Trump. Nothing in the Supreme Court's opinion affects my previous conclusion. This is such a joke. Conclusion that the hush money payments were private, unofficial acts outside the bounds of executive authority. So we'll see what Trump does with this and whether they appeal this decision. Because I think their argument, you can just see what their argument is going to be, is that the hearing that took place when they had this prior hearing, when he conducted it, followed an evidentiary hearing, and I was looking for a date. We don't have a date on that. Including 2 checks signed in the White House by Mr. Trump. And the questions that we're going to have is what happened at this evidentiary hearing, and was there a presentation of immune materials, right? That at the time we weren't necessarily talking about immunity according to those standards. So I think they're going to say that the judge applied the wrong standard in the original evidentiary hearing, and that the new standard, in other words, in the evidentiary hearing, they're putting stuff into the wrong buckets. Because remember, Michael Cohen was also a lawyer for the White House. And he confirmed that he was doing actual legal work for the White House in 2017. The checks were written in 2017. And Michael Cohen's a convicted perjurer. So if he's basing it on partially Michael Cohen's testimony and partially immune conduct, this is just a judge who feels to me like they're stretching. And so what I think Trump's defense is going to do is zoom in on this, go back to that evidentiary hearing, and see how evidence was presented and how they can put it into what each of these three buckets. And the judge is finding that everything goes into the third bucket. Trump's people are going to say, no, you've identified the wrong things in the wrong buckets. So it's really bucket 2 or bucket 1. And I do think we covered that hearing, but I don't know that we read through the transcripts or anything on that hearing. So I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what went down at that hearing. But this is an interesting filing. Now, the consequences of this are even more interesting, because this means that as of now, unless Trump appeals this decision or goes directly to the Supreme Court or opens up a new attack vector, this is sending this back down, or rather it hasn't taken it up at all from the lower level courts. So that means sentencing is still on track. And so Alvin Hellerstein is saying there is no immunity. It clearly appears on the face of the notice that removal should not be permitted, good cause has not been shown, and leave to remove the case is not granted. So the clerk shall terminate this. It all stays back down there with Judge Juan Merchan. And so Trump's lawyers, I'm sure, are vigorously pulling those transcripts from that prior hearing to say, Judge, it actually wasn't quite that simple. Part of the presentation included stuff that's clearly in bucket 1, and none of that should have been presented or a part of your conclusion. And so they'll go back to his original order and they'll compare and contrast it. But what's interesting about this is how quickly this came down. Trump just submitted, we covered it yesterday on the show, and this judge was scrambling to write this and drops this, denying leave to file removal. And so that was happening at the federal level. But this is what's happening at the state court level. So this is from Trump's defense attorney going to Judge Merchan. You can see this is being sent just basically simultaneous with the removal proceedings. And they sent this, prosecutors have already responded to this. You can see Trump's defense said, all right, listen, Judge, we got sentencing coming up. We got to figure this out. We respectfully submit this letter, all right? On August 29th, Trump, we filed our second removal notice in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. We read that yesterday and saw the rejection today. We'll transmit a courtesy copy of that to you, Judge Merchan. But look, in order to allow adequate time for the District Court and Bragg to address Trump's recent federal submission, so even they're like, holy crap, you rejected it already? And to avoid the forms of prejudice and irreparable harm detailed in that filing, Trump respectfully requests that this court refrain from deciding the presidential immunity motion until after the district court has resolved this, right? This is all now moot because the court acted so quickly. That is the only appropriate course in light of the gravity of these presidential immunity violations that the federal court just said we don't see any at all, that occurred in this court and the resulting harm to the institution of the presidency, as well as the significance of the supremacy clause and other concerns raised in the second removal notice. Moreover, as indicated in the second removal notice, the court may not sentence Trump while this removal litigation is pending, because that would result in a prohibited judgment of a conviction, which would not be appropriate if he has immunity. And so for the reasons set forth in our prior motion, there's no undue prejudice to any valid interest if you just wait for the federal courts to review this. And so, as you can see, they're even shocked, like, holy, how'd they get this done so quick? In response to that adjournment request, Bragg did not provide any meaningful opposition, and they hardly suggested that Your Honor's current schedule was necessary or appropriate. For example, Bragg acknowledged in their August 16th letter that the schedule would present appellate courts with the impossible task of receiving and deciding certain issues of first impression in one day. Supreme Court also made clear that this is going fast. So the first post-Trump scheduling conference in that case will not even occur till September 5th, 2024 in the District of Columbia case. And Jack Smith's office announced this week that they had obtained another superseding indictment. Now, those prosecutors' unsuccessful efforts to purge the taint of presidential immunity by obtaining a new charging indictment instrument from an entirely different grand jury are the same as what's happening here. Okay, Trump is making the same argument, just like we did the compare and contrast with Chutkan pausing the underlying pretrial process for immunity. Jack Smith, his original prosecution and indictment was so bad, he had to do it over again. So Alvin Bragg needs to do the same thing. And to be honest, the federal courts are handling Jack Smith. It's a sneaky thing he did to file that superseding indictment. Like, oops, I'll just take out the bad part. No, the entire thing is bad. Jack, you're predicating the whole thing on immune conduct. But anyways, but here, it should also be the same. Bragg should be forced to retry him again, re-indict him, strip out all the immune stuff. Are consistent with Trump's position in this case that Bragg's use of official acts evidence requires dismissal, saying there is no good reason at all to sentence President Trump prior to this election. No reason. And if there is to be a sentencing at all, or to drive the post-trial proceedings forward on a needlessly accelerated timeline relative to the manner in which similar issues are also being addressed by Jack Smith, illegal prosecutor. And so accordingly, the court should hold a presidential immunity motion in abeyance, adjourn the sentencing, and refrain from issuing any substantive orders until the second notice is resolved, which, as we saw, happened today. And so, just to be clear on the timeline, right? This was submitted the 29th, simultaneously with the motion. There was a little bit of procedural snafu, so Trump filed things out of order. Needed to file permission for leave to file a second removal request, filed the removal request first, and they filed no. Then they filed it again, and they filed it again. So there's a series of filings. But the point is, it was fast. Okay, the judge responded quickly. It's Tuesday. We had a Labor Day holiday weekend. So unless the judge was furiously working, all night, waiting for all of this to happen before dropping that, it was very quick. Well, actually, it doesn't even seem like we got a response at the federal level from anyone, right? The DOJ didn't even have time to respond to this, now that I think about it. The judge just denied it. The DOJ didn't respond. Alvin Bragg didn't respond. The judge just said, no, get out, which is about right. So, okay, yeah, shows you what's going on. Didn't even hear from the other side. So, at the federal level. Now, at the state level, Bragg responded. So this is what Bragg said in response to Trump's motion. That one just went to Judge Merchan. Again, at the state level, the same court that did the trial. So they responded. They said, all right, we know Trump filed a second removal request. They say federal law is clear that proceedings in this court don't need to be stayed until they decide on removal. So when Trump is trying to remove this, you should still sentence him. The court can and therefore should determine Trump's prior motion and the upcoming schedule now. In other words, don't postpone this. Now, in addition, notwithstanding defendants' effort to mischaracterize our position remains exactly as we indicated. We defer to the court on the appropriate post-trial schedule that allows for adequate time to adjudicate while also pronouncing sentencing without unreasonable delay. All right, so they're telling us that the federal court, even though they've decided very quickly, they're saying, well, if the federal court takes 2 weeks to decide this issue, we should still move forward because they haven't removed it yet. Until they take it away, it's ours. And so as we saw previously, they're saying, well, Judge, we're not going to tell you how to run your calendar, but we want the sentencing to happen without unreasonable delay. We note the concerns that Trump expresses about the timing are a function, they say, we note that Trump's concerns are a timing of his own strategic and his dilatory litigation tactics. This second notice of removal comes nearly 10 months after Trump voluntarily abandoned his appeal from his first unsuccessful effort to remove this case. Well, that's because we have a new Supreme Court decision that just dropped. Hello. 3 months ago, after he was found guilty by a jury, and nearly 2 months after the defendant asked the court to consider his prior motion. Okay, well, you forgot. Hello, Matthew Colangelo, Biden prosecutor who worked for Biden and Harris. You don't mention the SCOTUS immunity case tucked away in there, nor does the pretrial schedule in Trump's federal prosecution for corruptly interfering with the peaceful transfer of power in 2020 have anything to do with the post-trial schedule in this case. Man, Matthew Colangelo sounds bitter. He's probably upset that his BFF, Jack Smith, is not a real prosecutor and is having that case just collapse all over the place. Colangelo's a buddy, Jack Smith, not even a real boy. And Matthew Colangelo is trying to keep this train on the track. So we have more out of New York. So more rigged activity in New York. Watch this one. Trump is appealing his E. Jean Carroll verdict. This is the grab him by the purse case, allegedly Bergdorfed E. Jean Carroll in a Bergdorf room. And what happened is Trump is appealing this verdict. And guess who is going to be on the appellate panel? Well, we've got several judges on there. As you can see, they're listed here. Chin, Carney, Perez, all on the docket. And look who appointed these people. Denny Chin was appointed by Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Oh. Susan Carney was appointed by Obama. Oh. And Myrna Perez was appointed by Biden. Oh, no. Isn't that just terrible? What bad luck that is, huh? So Trump's appeal in the grab him by the Bergdorf, E. Jean Carroll, remember her? She was that woman who had painted her trees blue in the forest for some reason. Yeah, that's her case. And the jury actually found that she was, in my opinion, a liar. She said that she was ARD. And the jury said, no, you weren't. They just said you got grabbed by the purse. So they didn't believe her on that first count. I'd say that's kind of, well, they said, no, you lied about that. You testified differently. You said this happened and it didn't happen. And so they just gave her, a little gimme because they hate Trump. Now it's going up on appeal and Trump's going to have those 3 judges, a jury of his peers. In addition to that, we know Jack Smith re-indicted Trump. And so Trump is going to have another arraignment. This is in the District of Columbia, Judge Chutkan's courtroom. And the president is now signing off on a waiver of his appearance. Says, I, President Donald J. Trump, the above named defendant in accordance with federal law and rules, do hereby waive my right to be present at arraignment at my new indictment from the illegal Jack Smith, who's not even a real prosecutor, according to a federal judge. And I authorize my attorneys to enter a plea of not guilty on my behalf to each and every count of the superseding indictment, which are the same charges. I further state that I've received a copy of the superseding indictment and reviewed it with my counsel. Signed by President Donald Trump. Submitted in a court filing, also with his attorneys, Todd Blanche and John Lauro. So, big day. A lot of new filings, a lot of new activity, a lot of stuff happening. The clock is ticking. We now know Trump's case is going to be staying at the state court level. We'll see what Trump's defense attorneys have to say about it, if they'll be appealing this like they attempted to do on the last one, saying, Judge, your justification for denying it in the last one was a misapplication of the standard. You said that you did a good job putting things into bucket 1, 2, or 3, non-immune, presumptively immune, and absolutely immune. You didn't. You did a bad job. All the stuff you said's in bucket 1 should be in bucket 2 or 3, and so we'll actually apply it. The evidence should have never even been accepted, right? Evidence comes in, the judge says, well, I'll hear about that. He should have said no. Nope, can't talk about that. Should be precluded because that's obviously immune. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover this case in particular and the rest of the Trump litigation, the ballot litigation, election stuff. Thank you, my friends, for subscribing. Thank you for joining us here today and for coming on back here on the next one. We'll see you back here. And thank you for subscribing in the process. All right, now we're not done here. We've got another story to talk about, and this one is wild. So we have a CCP spy that has infiltrated the highest levels of New York government and did it for years. It is pretty insane. Here's the story. A CCP spy now been indicted, newly unsealed criminal charges coming out of the Eastern District of New York. And this woman was very high up. She worked for Kathy Hochul. Her name is Linda's son. In this clip, she's talking about equity and how important it is to governance. And apparently she was working on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party and was also working for Hochul and Cuomo when Cuomo got thrown out of there after his little scandalous scandal. So question is, what was she doing? We have a bunch of news covering this, but this is the official press release from the Department of Justice. They say former high-ranking New York State government employee charged with acting as an undisclosed agent of the PRC and the Chinese Communist Party. Whoa. Says that she engaged in political activities in the interest of the CCP. We've got the full indictment pulled up. And she worked with her co-defendant to launder their activities. Violated a bunch of stuff: Foreign Agents Registration Act, visa fraud, alien smuggling, money laundering. Sun and Hu were arrested this morning. The U.S. attorneys were involved in this, saying the illicit scheme here enriched the defendant's family to the tune of millions of dollars. As alleged in the indictment, she facilitated the transfer of millions for kickbacks and personal gain. She wielded her influence to covertly, right, she was working like next to these governors, to influence the PRC and the CCP, and the FBI investigated. They laundered millions, and it's a pretty damning indictment. They violated a bunch of rules. They sent unauthorized invitation letters and more. And so let's jump right into the indictment so we can see what is happening inside. This is what was filed out of the Eastern District, of New York. It's a nice, newly unsealed indictment. Filed here, United States of America against Linda Sun and Chris Hu. Sun and Hu. And they say, all right, they're also born as various different names. They're under various different names. Wen Sun, Ling Da Sun, and Linda Hu was a naturalized U.S. citizen. She was born in China, the People's Republic of China. Then from 2012 to 2023, she worked for the New York State government. She was the director of Asian American Affairs and Queens regional representative for a then executive head called Politician One, whose individual identity is known to the grand jury. From in or about August 2012 to 2015. And we think Politician One is probably Cuomo. We'll keep an eye on that. Director of the External Affairs and so and so. She was also the Chief Diversity Officer for Politician One from February 2018 to July 2020, which was the Cuomo years, and Superintendent for Intergovernmental Affairs and Chief Diversity Officer. Wow. That's a heck of a name. So you see how this works when you're just one of these people who just works for the government all the time? Deputy Chief Diversity Officer. Then she got a promotion. She was deputy. Loser. Then she became the superintendent, not only for diversity, but for intergovernmental affairs, and then Chief Diversity Officer. Whoa! Wait a minute. Are you allowed to say chief? Are you allowed to say that? I thought that has some bigotry implied in there, you know, like for our Native American friends. Pretty sure that's illegal. All right, we'll see what happens to that. Anyways, they've got a bunch of stuff she did. Then remember, Cuomo got squeezed out of office for reasons. And then she came in, was working as for someone else, a politician too, which we think is Kathy Hochul. She then became an advisor for then executive head Politician Two. Okay, so that's Hochul, an advisor, because then she was acting governor. Then she became a deputy commissioner for strategic business development and was still working there until March 2023, when they finally caught on. So then the defendant is a U.S. citizen married to her. He has a seafood company, right? He's a seafood exporter. And financial consultancy, articles of incorporation for a seafood company, and so on. Now, the company was an authorized freight agent by the PRC. So they're just going to ship over some meat and some seafood or something. And the CCP is just going to use his business. All right. So we also have this person, CC1, is an individual, identity known. There's nonprofits involved. We've got a bunch of PRC officials who are in here. Identity is known, right? So they got the actual identities. Now, here's the summary of this criminal conduct. While working for the New York government for Politician 1 and Politician 2, that's Cuomo and Hochul, including high-ranking posts for them, she worked in multiple state agencies. Linda's son also acted as an undisclosed agent of the PRC and the CCP. Crazy. Acting at the request of PRC government officials and CCP representatives, so their government is now in charge, Sun engaged in numerous political activities to benefit China, including blocking representatives of the Taiwanese government from accessing the governor. They're like, hey, can we schedule a meeting with the governor? They're like, transfer to me. Like, why does Linda always want to talk to the people from Taiwan? I don't know. She likes them or something. No, you're not meeting with the governor. Don't call back here, ever. Changing, Politician 1 and Politician 2's messages regarding the importance of China and the CCP. So she's rewriting Cuomo and Hochul's speeches. That's why Cuomo's like, all right, make sure you're locked down, put 35 masks on, and remember that China is amazing and nothing came from Wuhan. Anyways, stay locked down, and de Blasio's here with a message about hamburgers. Bill. Obtaining official New York governor proclamations for PRC government representatives without proper authorization, inviting all her friends in, and then attempting to facilitate a trip to China by Hochul. All right, so he's going to take Hochul to China. She's going to take Hochul to China. And arranging meetings for Chinese delegations with New York government officials. Now, additionally, the defendant, Linda's son, repeatedly violated internal rules and protocols within the New York governor's office to provide improper benefits to China and to CCP representatives, including she gave unauthorized invitation letters from the office of the New York governor. So, hey, so she would say, you're invited, come visit the governor. And then Chinese officials would use those letters and come into the country. Sun's unauthorized invitation letters for Chinese officials were false statements made in connection with immigration documents, and she invited illegal Chinese people into the country. Now, in return for these and other actions, Linda's son received substantial economic and other benefits from China, millions of dollars in transactions for the PRC-based business activities of her husband. The defendant, Chris Hu, they got travel benefits. They got event tickets. They got promotion of friends' businesses. They got son's cousin a job in the PRC. The Nanjing-style salted ducks. They got salted ducks prepared by Chinese Communist Person 1's personal chef. Who is that? I wonder who that is. PRC Official 1. Is that Xi Jinping? Did his personal chef deliver salted Chinese Nanjing-style ducks to them? Wow. Here's one. Sun and Hu laundered the monetary proceeds of this scheme to purchase, among other items, real estate property in Manhasset, New York. $3.6 million. A condo in Honolulu, Hawaii for $1.9 million. They got various luxury automobiles. They got a Ferrari. Man, from 2024, that's this year. It's a new one. Sun never disclosed any benefits she got from her Chinese friend. She's like just driving a Ferrari around. Yeah, I just do good work for the diversity chief. The chief diversity people. All right, here, let's pause here. This is the best moment for this. Let's hear what this woman actually said. Okay, so just to be clear about this. Sun and Hu laundered millions, okay, 3.6 million for this condo, Honolulu, Ferrari, Hawaii. Now, I should be clear. All defendants are presumed innocent in America, and prosecutors are pieces of crap, all right, generally speaking. Not all of them, but generally speaking. But this is an interesting one. And they deserve the same presumption of innocence as anybody does. And I'm sure their excuse will be, he sells a lot of seafood. What's your problem? Okay, he sells seafood all the time. New Yorkers are gobbling shrimp all over the place. So just shut up about this. If we want to buy a Ferrari, we can buy a Ferrari. She is chief diversity officer. There's nothing wrong with that. And she does a great job making sure everybody's equitable and everything's equal. And we have a lot of diversity and everything. But my husband is just crushing it, all right? He's selling seafood hand over fist. But anyways, you see millions and millions of dollars, and watch what she says. Watch how these people talk when they're driving around in their 2024 Ferraris, okay? Listen to this woman. What a hypocrite.
I think, when people say diversity and inclusion, I think everybody agrees, or most people generally agree that it's a good thing, right? But I think right now we also need to bring in the word equity, right? Diversity is when you say that there's, many different types of people with different backgrounds, and they're all, invited to the table. Inclusion is when, we include all of their ideas. But equity is when we make sure that all of the people who are at the table have equal access to making sure that their ideas and their thoughts are heard. And unfortunately, I think some of the statistics that you quoted is that we don't have that much leadership or representation.
All right, so everybody should have equal access, I guess, to CCP slush funds or something. But that's her. That's what she's saying, talking about equity and inclusion and how diversity is not enough. And she needs more condos for more millions of dollars, and probably wants a Lamborghini too. So defendant laundered unlawful proceeds from all this through bank accounts that was opened in the name of a close relative. So they opened it up in their cousin's part of this. He's like, what? Sitting at home playing video games. Feds come raid his house. He's like, what the hell's going on here? Going to make some who jokes, but I don't want to do that. The defendant, Linda's son, never registered as a foreign agent with the Attorney General, and in fact actively concealed that she took actions at the order, request, and direction of the PRC government and CCP representatives. The feds bust into the front door and they say, where's who? And that poor cousin, he's like, who? And it's a back and forth. You could write, the skit writes itself. All right, you see, that's why I didn't do it. Thus, neither the New York State government nor the greater New York and American public had the opportunity to evaluate her. No one knew. In a voluntary interview with agents from the FBI in July 2020, so she sat down with them. And remember, there were a bunch of raids going on in New York. The defendant, Linda's son, misrepresented the purpose of one of her trips to the PRC and concealed the fact that it was arranged and funded by co-conspirators from China. In a voluntary interview with the New York office of the Inspector General, Linda's son also claimed, hey, why are you going over there? Oh, she said, I went to Asian community events. That's all. Asian community. Don't you question my diversity? And not in her new capacity at the Department of Labor. She falsely claimed that she had not requested any official gubernatorial proclamations since transferring to the Department of Labor. In fact, she had procured and presented official gubernatorial proclamations to PRC Official 1. I don't know who that is. Maybe it's President Xi. Who knows? So here's the background on FARA. Okay, obviously the purpose of FARA, the Foreign Agent Registrations Act, Hunter Biden, if you're listening, or prosecutors who want to prosecute Hunter for actual criminal violations, not only his tax stuff, they should read this section. We'll fast forward through it. It's just background stuff. But let's continue on with this section. Linda's son, she also did a bunch of unregistered stuff for China and the CCP. Linda acted at the order, at the direction, at the request of representatives of China. She engaged in political activities, tried to interfere with the public, including New York government, and in response to political events. She worked to stop representatives from Taiwan from meeting with New York. She knew that the Chinese government opposed that diplomacy, and she took action to prevent it. She also worked at the request of China to shape public statements of Cuomo and Hochul to align with China priorities. She also obtained and publicly presented an official New York State proclamation for Official 1, which without authorization from her employer. It's just crazy. It's just government people just doing whatever they want. And no one knows. Finally, like an official proclamation, isn't that like an official thing? Finally, Sun attempted to arrange visits by Henan officials to the United States to meet with New York officials, as well as an official visit by Hochul to China at the request of China and the Chinese government. Now, here's where she stopped the Taiwanese from meeting with New York. China has long claimed the island of Taiwan as PRC territory, though they have no control in the area. The PRC government, Taiwan, did not, let me say this, the Chinese government did not accept the legitimacy of the Taiwanese government and says you don't recognize them at all. If you want to deal with China, you do not recognize Taiwan. Now, since the 1970s, PRC, China, and Taiwan competed for diplomatic recognition. The position of the U.S. was to acknowledge that China claims sovereignty over Taiwan, but also having a robust unofficial relationship. Now, neither Cuomo or Hochul had a policy themselves about whether to formally recognize Taiwan. Neither office had a policy or practice about this. In fact, TECRO representatives regularly met with high-ranking officials, so people from Taiwan. Beginning no later than 2016, however, Linda Sun acted at the request of China to minimize contact between Taiwan government officials and the governor's office. So they're hanging out, they're having lunches. Hey, what's up, Taiwan? Hey, what's up, New York? How you guys doing? Things are good. Then Linda Sun comes in. It's like, lunch is canceled. Go home. We don't like you anymore. In repeated written communications with China representatives, including PRC Official 1 and 2, Sun bragged that she had successfully prevented the Taiwanese from meeting with Cuomo and Hochul. Then they gave her tons of gifts. She went to shows, she went to concerts, she went to events. She got a bunch more salted ducks delivered by the personal chef. Now, she was also talking with people by WeChat. The following are examples of her influence. So on June 9th, 2016, Linda wrote a Chinese consular official. So Linda, working for the New York State government, sends a message to her Chinese handlers. Says, hey, just an FYI for you. The Taipei Economic Office is trying to secure Hochul for an event in D.C. during Select USA. They sent the invitation to another colleague trying to bypass me. Okay, so the Taiwanese know. They're like, that Linda, she's communist China, isn't she? I'm working on it right now to resolve the issue. So they tried to bypass her. After the PRC consular official responded, thank you for letting me know, Sun wrote, it's all been taken care of satisfactorily. All right. They're not meeting. Notably, on June 21st, Politician 2 attended the reception hosted by China and the China General Chamber of Commerce. They went to the Chinese event. They didn't go to the Taiwan event. That's one Chinese spy deviating an entire politician's night between countries. It's pretty crazy because our politicians are just dummies who just go wherever they're told. In January, she's like, I don't know, China, Taiwan, aren't they the same thing? Hochul, no idea what she's talking about. Yeah, they're the same, Kathy. Yeah, come over here. Come over China. Yeah, same thing. In January 2019, defendant Linda Sun also wrote to another Chinese handler. She says, hey, I very much value my relationship with the consulate and have done many things to make the relationship between the state of New York and the consulate flourish during my tenure with Cuomo. Certainly, I've managed to stop all relationships between the Taiwanese and the state. I have denied all requests from their office. The Chinese handler said, I know, and I do appreciate your help. With us now in the political section, says this handler, you are the most important hub connecting us with Cuomo and his team. Then on February 27th, 2019, Linda directed Cuomo's staff. She told Cuomo's staff, decline a request for meeting with the mayor of Taiwan, of a city there. Sun instructed the staff member, no to the request. I'll explain why in person. Because I'm a Chinese communist spy. I don't think she probably mentioned that. Now, on or about July 5th, 2019, the Taiwanese Deputy Counsel wrote the defendant Linda's son, said, hey, the Taiwan president is going to be visiting New York City in July, and I invite you, son, and Cuomo to attend a banquet in Manhattan. The Taiwanese president would like to meet with the sitting governor. Think you can arrange it, Linda? Several minutes later, Sun forwarded the email to Chinese handler 4, said FYI, the Taiwanese are coming. Now, contemporaneously, Sun texted Chinese official 4, says, I just sent you an email. Just an FYI, I already blocked it. Okay, we're not going to go meet with the Taiwanese president. I'm sure the people of New York would like that. I mean, it seems like the governor might want to welcome the largest manufacturer of semiconductors into their state and have a cordial welcome with them. Don't know that the people of New York voted for Linda to make that decision, but she did. So Chinese official says, oh, got it. Thanks for taking care of it. Don't have to worry about it. Literally dictating the course of the entire state. Maybe they wanted to come and build a semiconductor factory there. We'll never know. On July 6th, Sun then replied to the Taiwanese Deputy Counsel, says, we're declining the invitation because Andrew Cuomo, she lies, is hosting a summer activity day for staff in the Catskills on that day. Talk about an insult. No, we're not going to meet with your president from Taiwan because we've got a summer activity day with the governor's staff. Okay. We're going to do finger paintings and hanging them on our refrigerators. And in fact, the summer activity day, which Sun attended, occurred on July 11th, not July 12th. So she's like, oh, so she lied about it. Before Sun declined the invitation on Cuomo's behalf, didn't even ask him, there was no record of Sun forwarding the deputy counsel's invitation to Cuomo's office or checking his schedule on July 12th. Just says, we're not coming. So then on or about July 10th, there was a telephone call that lasted 9 minutes between the cell phones of Linda's son and Chinese handler number 4. And a later call that day that lasted 2.5 minutes between the two, between Chinese handler 1. Later that day, Sun sent the following email to the executive chamber. It says, quote, I wanted to check if there's a particular event in the system. It says in the follow-up email, she clarified, what event do you want to look for? The event is a dinner banquet hosted by the president of Taiwan. It's on Friday, I believe. Sends the email. As reflected by the email from the deputy counsel from Taiwan, the event for the president was scheduled on July 12th. The following day, another staff member in the executive chamber wrote, I am not seeing that we have anything for tomorrow or at all. Sun responded, perfect, right? So now as reflected in open source materials, we have a photograph and photographs found in one of her electronic accounts. They snooped through her phone. On July 12th, the date of the scheduled event for the Taiwanese president, the defendant, the day before, right? She was at that summer activity camp. The day after, Linda's son, and various leaders of the local Chinese associations participated in a protest in Manhattan against the Taiwanese president and his visit to New York. Wow, this is brutal. The photograph below depicting Sun at the protest is from a news publication. There's the Chinese spy right there. So the Taiwanese president is coming in. They want to meet with the governor, as would be expected. She declines the invitation, says, we've got summer finger painting class. Has nothing on the actual day other than showing up and protesting the Taiwanese president. Pretty insane. And this is probably one of thousands of embedded Chinese spies, to be real. It's probably thousands. But on or about August 6th, across the whole country, all these governor offices, are you kidding me? On or about August 6th, the new TICO director from Taiwan invited Linda's son to coffee. This guy from Taiwan, he's like, let me have a crack at her. Let me see if I can figure out what her problem is. Why does she hate Taiwan so much? Says, okay, let me go introduce myself. The next day, Sun wrote to Chinese handler 1, says, as you know, I have successfully blocked all formal and informal meetings between Cuomo and Hochul to Taiwan. I myself have maintained a bare minimum of a relationship with them. Now, Sun says, I need directions. How do I handle this request from Taiwan? With regard to their current request, I would assume that a visit to the governor's office is probably best avoided, lest it leads to ramifications of them claiming that we are recognizing them. But wanted to make sure we're on the same page, right? Don't let these people come to the governor's office. Almost a week later, the defendant, Linda Sun, responded to the email from the Taiwanese guy. Says, well, how about we meet at Applebee's, a chain takeout restaurant, near our office if you want. Let's go to Applebee's. According to internal correspondence, Sun and her office's Director of Asian American Affairs met with the representative. So 2 people met with them. Then Linda Sun messaged the Chinese handler that one area that Taiwan is better than you guys, referring to the representatives, was outreach. Says, these Taiwanese are pretty smooth and convincing. They regularly reach out to me to have coffee because they're just good people. They don't have to pay people as hack spies. Same with all other reps in other elected offices. Not that we need to have coffee because we are in regular contact, but it might be helpful to building a better relationship. Not everyone is like me. Smiley face. Is she flirting with this dude? She's like, why are you being so cold to me, Mr. Chinese handler number 4? Why don't we just have some coffee? I'd like to see you face to face. He's like, just shut up and give me the information, okay? You dumb spy, just shut up. Be quiet over there. She's like, well, it'd be nice if maybe we could get to know each other a little bit. I just thought it might be fun. Not everyone is like me, okay? He's like, ugh. Leave me alone. In late August 2009, he's like, texting me again, wants coffee again. Ugh. In August 2019, Linda Sun provided an edit to a draft statement by Cuomo, changing his speeches in order to avoid any state recognition of Taiwan. The statement commemorated soldiers and veterans of the U.S. and Taiwanese armed forces. She deleted it. Sun's sole edit to the statement was the following. Politically, can we refrain from using the phrase Republic of China so as to avoid creating an international incident by recognizing Taiwan? She's very dramatic. An international incident. In an internal email, Sun eventually indicated her approval of a draft statement that removed all references to Republic of China. Now, on or about September 5th, 2019, the Taiwanese Director of Political Affairs wrote to Linda Sun, says, can we please invite Cuomo to come to Taiwan's National Day event on October 7, 2019 in Manhattan? After various members of the governor's office asked Sun to weigh in regarding the appropriate response, Sun advised against attending the event. No, it's probably not good. Then later, Sun also instructed the Director of Asian American Affairs, no message and no rep. Then in October, the Taiwanese Director of Political Affairs wrote Sun again to ascertain her office's availability. Are you guys coming or not? You haven't responded. Now, there was no record of an email response, so she's just ignoring them. January 13, 2020, Taiwan wrote a letter to Cuomo informing him of the latest election results in Taiwan and writing, I will be honored to forward your congratulatory message to Taipei. So the Taiwanese ambassador says, let me know how to reach out on behalf of your state. An employee in the governor's office forwarded the letter to Linda Sun and asked for her input. Sun responded, no letter would set off a political firestorm. Wild. So I don't even, who knows if Cuomo even got notification of this. Then in 2020, the Taiwanese government donated 200,000 masks to New York state government because Cuomo was flipping out about it. After the donation was finalized, Taiwan staff wrote in an email to Linda Sun, copying 2 other employees, said, it would be great. We just gave you 200,000 masks. That's perfect. Cuomo can put 100,000 of them on. It would be great if you could let me know the details of arranging a phone call between Hochul and the director of Taiwan. Then when the Taiwanese followed up, copying 2 other employees, Sun did not respond to the email. Again, just kind of F you buttoning them. You're not going to get through. On or about May 6th, staff again followed up with her, and so the pattern continues. Then someone actually sent her a message. The Chinese officials praised, wow, look at this. COVID just entered the game. On or about October 25th, 2020, after Chinese official number 2 praised Cuomo's pandemic efforts in a text message, we love what he's doing. He's locking everybody down. He's having a bunch of people tune into his stupid little press briefings where he gives everybody made up numbers about who knows what. And then everybody on CNN salivates over it. We love it. China's like, it's great. She responded, I'm still in charge of all Asian affairs. A few weeks ago, when we released a press release for international travel, I almost had a heart attack when we referred to Taiwan as a country. Thankfully, I had the press team correct it immediately. Chinese handler says, thank you for your every effort to improve understanding and cooperation between China and us. Keep in touch. Then another one. She says, we generally don't accept these meetings. Another meeting. She got an invitation to recognize Taiwanese American Heritage Week. She says, no thanks. Another one. Would you like a meeting with this ambassador? No thanks. Now, she also coordinated phone calls. So she got Cuomo to meet with CCP officials about COVID. Oh, that's cool. So in early 2020, during the onset of COVID, which was timed perfectly, Linda Sun was in frequent communication with the Chinese consulate, including all 4 of these people, initially to help ship PPE stuff after the pandemic started to New York State, and ventilators as well. Sun repeatedly asked the PRC to promote Company One. While the defendant, Chris Hu, frequently did business with Company One, it was actually run by Company One's owner, which is Hu's close friend. But they said it was Hu's company, so more money's going on there. Now, apparently, according to Sun, the shipping and customs clearances were characterized as the defendant, Chris Hu's, her husband's logistics company. And they were making some shipping deals. As the pandemic started to spread, Linda Sun found ways for the PRC officials to gain access to New York leaders. For example, on March 16th, Linda Sun surreptitiously added Chinese handler 4, oh my gosh, to a private New York State government conference call concerning the health response to COVID. Whoa, man. She brought on the Chinese handler onto like a Zoom call. Here's the link. Don't tell anyone I gave it to you. Speakers on the conference call included the New York State Commissioner, Education, New York State Department of Health. The call was not open to the public. The name did not appear on the invitation list. During the call, Sun repeatedly admonished the official in writing to keep your phone muted. Keep your phone muted, idiots. They can hear you speaking Mandarin back there. Shut up. Turn your phone off. At the close of the call, Official 4 commented that the call was very useful. Thank you for that. According to the phone records, there was a call lasting 36 minutes between them after the call. The private New York State government conference call was also scheduled to begin at 6:30, lasted for 32 minutes. She's booting them into calls. Similarly, another Chinese handler also wrote to Linda Sun that several Chinese foundations would donate 1,000 ventilators to Great New York Hospital Association, which I think was responsible for a lot of unnecessary deaths, if the date is correct, which is debatable, I guess. But Sun informed PRC Official 1 and Politician 1 would call PRC Official 1 and thank PRC Official 1. So in other words, Cuomo would call and say thank you for the ventilators and for the COVID or whatever. Now, after waiting 2 hours for the call, PRC Official 1 complained that he had not heard from Cuomo. Why is the governor not calling me? Sun said, oh, sorry, he's in a meeting. Sorry for wasting your time, PRC Official 1. So it's definitely not she. Sun further indicated that Politician 1 would call you tomorrow and remind him to thank our government for giving you all that help. And so more stuff is going on. PRC official 1 agreed, asked Sun to take photographs of what they were sending over. Same thing with Hochul. In early 2021, Linda Sun gave the PRC consulate with access to shape the content of Hochul's public remarks, including she gave Chinese government officials a preview of what Hochul was going to say. Then Chinese officials told her what to change, and she went and changed it. Kathy Hochul then did not publicly address the Uyghurs, the detention of the Uyghurs in China. And then they asked, hey, Chinese handler says, do you think Cuomo could make a video commemorating the Lunar New Year? She says, maybe, but Hochul can probably do it. What do you want her to mention? Give me some talking points. And she says, yeah, mostly wishes for the Lunar New Year. You could also mention 2020 has been challenging for people all around the world, but we fought this virus together, you know. And she says, can we talk later on the phone? I still really want to have coffee with you. I really need to talk to you about our future together. Official 4 replied he was available. They set a time to speak. Then they came up, talked about the speech, hopeful holiday wishes, right? Can you say something hopeful for the holidays? Just say how you love China. Leave out the Uyghur situation. And then they got a proclamation for a government official without authorization. She got the executive chamber's office to produce a framed gubernatorial proclamation for Sun to give to China official 1. She got the proclamation outside the ordinary channels, did not follow protocol, and so it was never logged into the online tracking system. It was a counterfeit proclamation. She sat down, did an interview, lied about making those proclamations. We know she did. Here is her giving him the proclamation. Here, it's fake. It's like a probably fake signature, or maybe it's real. I don't know, but it's not real. She just made it up. The Department of Labor fired her March 2nd. But Sun reportedly attended a bunch of other events in the aftermath and was no longer employed. In addition to acting as an agent, she also engaged in political activities at the request of the Chinese organizers. And they're very long, and you can see. So this goes on and on and on. And you can see, here are some more photographs of what she's been doing. Here was one. She met with politician 2 to discuss the economic cooperation between the Henan province and New York. So there looks like Kathy Hochul, I imagine is right there. The photograph depicts Kathy Hochul standing with these people that she helped facilitate. And so the entire administration in New York is basically being run by this woman, at least as it pertains to these types of ordeals, these types of issues. As a February 2018 press clipping shows, more meetings. She's facilitating all of this stuff. The chairman and the CCP party secretary for that organization, she brought them in. And so the rest of the indictment is very much the same. So the list just goes on and on, all over the place. Multiple pictures. This woman was extremely involved in Cuomo's administration and Hochul's administration. Bunch of different charges. And a nice summary of them is listed here by the New York Times. 65-page indictment is what we just looked at. And there were a bunch of charges. 10 criminal counts. Visa fraud, money laundering, other crimes. Husband similarly charged with money laundering. Both pleaded not guilty in federal court today. They were released on bond. They were required to surrender their passports so they can't escape back to China. Linda Sun's lawyer said that our client is understandably upset. If these accusations are true, the Times even admits this would be a pretty brazen manipulation of New York state government at the highest levels, covering several years of the administration of Cuomo and Hochul. The charges are the latest in the DOJ's efforts. They're also going after some other people. This was a big deal. Sun served as the deputy chief of staff for Hochul after holding a series of other positions. She steered officials away from Taiwan and did it for years. So the story will continue, no doubt about it. And we'll see if Hochul's people have a response, if Cuomo's people have a response, and what the charged have to say about this. We're sure they'll have a nice justification for it, saying that her husband just sold a bunch of seafood. And if they want to buy Ferraris, they're allowed to buy Ferraris. And so we'll be here continuing to cover this. My question is, how many other individuals like this are embedded in our multiple government agencies, whether it's at the federal level or the state level, or if there's somebody like this in the governor's office who manages the governor's schedule, do you think that there could be anybody like this maybe in a Secretary of State's office or at an election tabulation center or something that might have some influence on how things get situated when we're counting our ballots? Big concerns. Our government is largely incompetent. My question is, can they filter this problem out? We'll see what happens in New York. Thank you, my friends, for subscribing as we continue to cover this story and more. We'll see you back here on the next one. But we're not done yet. We got one final story on the day, and this one is about Elon Musk and a nice little victory that he has secured in the battle for free speech. Elon Musk wins a nice victory in the battle for free speech. You can see Reuters is giving us some background on the lawsuit, but it's against Media Matters, a major leftist attack dog organization, constantly clipping conservatives and then making them cancelable for advertisers and things like that. They've been around for a very long time, and they created a very problematic post and report on Elon Musk's X. And so Elon sued them, and there was a big hearing that took place over a motion to dismiss the lawsuit that Elon Musk is bringing. And so we're going to go through this. Now, X has not responded to comment. Media Matters has not responded to comment. But here is what the opinion says from the court, because this is a big deal. It's about free speech in America. And we know that Elon Musk is under attack from many different vectors. He's got lawsuits coming against him. He's got regulatory attack coming against him. He's even got presidential candidates and individuals like Kamala Harris saying that he should be brought to heel. This is a clip that came from 2019, I believe, some time ago. And we know it's old because it's Kamala talking to the press. She doesn't do that now. So this is her talking about Elon, and now he needs to be brought to heel. And so many organizations have launched attacks against Elon, Media Matters just being one of them. But here's what Kamala said about Elon.
He has lost his privileges, and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
All right, you can even see Jake Tapper's hands, I think like right here. Like, see that right there? He opens his hands up like, what are you talking? Like, that's what free speech is. He's like, well, what? That's what free speech is, Kamala. Like, he has to be shut down? Right there, right? What? Yeah. Elon cannot be allowed to exist because he is enabling free speech, and they need fake narratives, just like the Ministry of Truth, in order to secure their victory, because the truth is devastating to them. So here is what a great judge from the great state of Texas had to say about this. You see, the case is X Corp as the plaintiff suing Media Matters for America because of a story that they published. Here's the background on this. On November 20th, X and Elon brought this action against Media Matters and others for interference with contract, business disparagement, interference with prospective economic advantage for what they wrote in their article. Now, pursuant to these claims, X and Elon, they say that Media Matters knowingly and maliciously fabricated side-by-side images of various posts from X that depicted ads next to neo-Nazi or other extremist content. Remember that stupid article where they said, wow, look, this major advertiser, Disney, is right next to this racist neo-Nazi. They portrayed these designed images as if they were what the average user experiences on X. Now, Elon says that no, Media Matters proceeded with this course of action in an effort to portray X as a neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic, and thereby a platform, and thereby alienating major advertisers and pushing users away from X. So they go through some of the legal standards and personal jurisdiction. We'll fast forward through that. And the court finds that it's got jurisdiction, as we'll see. And failure to state a claim this will survive. So they're giving us the rules, right? We talk about what are the issues, what are the rules. They gave us the rules. We'll fast forward. So here's the analysis, the good stuff. Now, for specific jurisdiction here to exist, they say Media Matters must have targeted the conduct that is the basis for the lawsuit in Texas. So can Media Matters even be sued? A fair reading of Elon's complaint says that, yep, Media Matters and all of you committed atrocious conduct by engaging in an ideologically driven crusade to damage Elon and X by targeting their advertisers with manipulated information. And the complaint explains that these defendants and others orchestrated a plan to manipulate X to align ads from their customers with inflammatory posts. So they tried to get their posts next to, like bad posts next to advertisements. The amended complaint also says that Media Matters posted an article written by the defendant, Hannah Nokai, which described the results of this manipulation. They explained how they did it. The following day, Media Matters published another article written by the same guy detailing its report of this manipulation. The court refers to these two articles as the Hananoki articles. The body of the Hananoki articles targeted, among others, Oracle, which was a Texas advertiser, and Oracle as well. The plaintiff also alleges that this crusade targeted the advertisers. It was AT&T as well, which are both Texas-based companies. And that they planned to do this to take a stand against X, and they wanted specifically advertisers to stop advertising with X. Now, the targeting of this, they're targeting specifically Texas-based companies. So it sounds like you availed yourselves of that forum. And so as described, each defendant engaged in Texas, and so therefore there's jurisdiction. You came to Texas and poked a Texas company. We'll see you back here. First, there's no question that the author of this, Hanoki, targeted Texas. He included Oracle in the headline and described how Media Matters found that Oracle ads were occurring next to Hitler-loving posts. He also talked about Oracle in his second post. Now, he's provided an affidavit. He says, well, I was not aware that those were in Texas or that those had any Texas residents or Texas users. I didn't know that. That there were Texas users of X or anything. I didn't know. He also says Texas is neither the subject. It's not mentioned in the article. So these guys are trying to escape jurisdiction. They're like, no, we've never even stepped foot in Texas. So you can't sue us here. The Hananoki disclaims that he was not aware the Hananoki articles had a connection to Texas and continues to believe they have no connection to Texas, is conclusory and it's insufficient. Now, these attestations do not disclaim that Hananoki knew Oracle and AT&T were based in Texas. And he does not deny that he knew of the alleged manipulation and that he and his co-defendant efforts were designed to drive blue chip advertisers away. So we have to take those allegations as true. And if we take it as true that he knew Oracle and AT&T were based in Texas, advertised on X, and he targeted them, then if we take it as true, we have to say there's jurisdiction. Same thing with this guy, Caroll, saying he also participated in the same crusade. This guy, Caroll, appeared on television, on advertisements, and was a part of this effort. He provided an affidavit saying, I didn't contact any advertisers in Texas. I didn't know about any of the Texas stuff. No one knew that they were based there. But all of this shows he directed his conduct at the advertisers in Texas. He went after Oracle. He went after AT&T. They're based there. That counts. Now, Media Matters too. They also have jurisdiction here. The court must first decide the nature of its website. If the website is passive and specific jurisdiction does not exist, but if the website is interactive, well, we have to take a look. A website is interactive if it interacts with its visitors. Their affidavit says the website is interactive. And traditional jurisdictional rules apply then. For the reasons here, Media Matters targeted Texas. It was part of a strategy to target their advertisers, Oracle and AT&T. They're based in Texas. And so, if they wanted to target him, Texas has jurisdiction. Now, in summary, these alleged acts are the basis of Elon's claim. They show that Media Matters and others targeted AT&T and Oracle. Also, they're not being hailed into Texas based on untargeted acts. The alleged conduct was directed at these companies in a way that is different that would randomly affect others. It wasn't like they just went after like X advertisers, and if you happen to be an X advertiser, they targeted these two companies specifically. A defendant who targets a Texas company with tortious activity has fair warning. If you target one of our companies, you can be sued there. Here's the quote. Listen to this one. If you're going to pick a fight in Texas, it is reasonable to expect that it be settled there. Fifth Circuit case from 2002. You're damn right. All right. Now, once a plaintiff has established minimum contacts, the burden shifts. And so here, the defendants are subject to jurisdiction in Texas. And so they say Elon alleges a substantial part of the events occurred within the Northern District of Texas. They say that they waged a campaign against X. AT&T is headquartered in the Northern District. The gravamen of Elon's claims are that they negatively impacted their clients, and that's jurisdiction enough. And so they've got jurisdiction. And they also filed a 12b6 motion, very common motion in these claims. It's failure to state a claim. They say, well, look, even if you have jurisdiction over us, there's no claim here, so it can't survive. And so the judge is going to dismiss this one as well. To allege a case of tortious interference, all you need is to show a prima facie case is these elements: an existing contract that exists, a willful and intentional act that interferes with the contract, and injury that's proximately caused. Those elements. They say, well, Elon has provided enough allegations to survive a dismissal today. Here's what he's alleged. Elon says, well, there was contracts that existed between X and the advertisers. They were subject to interference if somebody tries to interfere with those contracts. There were intentional acts. They wrote an article, created a narrative to interfere, and there was cause. They actually lost advertisers, and they caused that. So it cannot be reasonably disputed that Elon has named parties who contracted for paid ads on X. Media Matters reporting has acknowledged that, even in their own articles. So we got that element checked out. Next, they say there was no breach of contracts, but they're misstating the law. And finally, Elon also plausibly alleges that Media Matters caused their harm. The court will not choose against competing inferences. And so Elon says we can show that we've been damaged. The other side shows, no, those aren't real damages. And he says, so I'm not going to be in the business of deciding that now. They've shown enough here to survive the 12b6 motion to dismiss, so the claim will move forward. Now, also, in other words, they can meet those elements, at least at this initial stage. The elements of a business disparagement claim are also as follows. The defendant published false and disparaging information about the business. There was malice. They were acting with some spiteful ill will. They didn't have the privilege to do it, and it resulted in damages. Now, Media Matters says this claim won't survive. They say, well, we never committed actual malice, and there were no special damages. Judge says, I don't know. Well, first, construing the facts that Elon says in a light most favorable to Elon, they say that you guys manipulated and intended to deceive Elon's advertisers. That's sufficient. They say you acted with malice by saying that our reporting was false. Your reporting was false, and it was intended to despair. There's an inference of actual malice there. Now, the judge says many of these facts are disputed, no doubt, but there's enough that's been pled here to move forward. To survive a motion to dismiss on this other claim, all it has to be is a small showing. Elon has done that. Thus, there's been a plausible claim about tortious interference, and so that survives. Now, because the court has personal jurisdiction over media matters and those authors, venue is proper in the Northern District of Texas, and Elon has properly pled its claims so that he's satisfied he can actually recover if this moves forward. Media matters and their motion to dismiss is denied. Get out of here. So that doesn't mean that Elon wins the case, but it does survive their attempt to dismiss. This is a major hurdle in civil litigation, and so it's a big one. It's a good win. This case can move forward, and Elon can start digging into discovery, and we'll start to unpack what Media Matters really did here. And so big victory to Elon. Good news on that front. And of course, we'll cover more free speech battles here. We'll see if Media Matters owes Elon Musk damages for making up fake stories. What's happened with X is many people on the left are finding it to be suddenly a bastion of right-wingers, when in reality, it's just open. It's a free space. Anybody can hop on it. What was happening with old Twitter is that they were suppressing all of the conservatives. So now that the boot has been lifted off everybody's neck, it feels a little bit different because it's not a liberal echo chamber, and they're very unhappy about it. So they have to create stories to try to minimize free speech because it's the last thing they want, as you saw from Kamala Harris. How can anybody be allowed to talk to millions of Americans without the government controlling it? That seems reckless. That's Kamala Harris. That's the Democratic Party today. We'll be here supporting free speech and continuing to cover these stories and more. Thank you for subscribing, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come over and join us on the next one. We'll look forward to seeing you and them back here at that time. All right, and so that is it for us on the day, my friends. We covered 3 good stories. If you're just joining us and you missed the beginning of the show, quick recap. We talked about Trump and the prosecutors there who were fighting to keep the sentencing on track. And we had a very, very quick turnaround on a rejection of Trump's motion to remove the New York case to federal court. So as it stands, unless Judge Merchan does something differently or Trump's attorneys appeal rapidly, case is on track for sentencing on September 18th. A lot can still happen between now and then. So we'll keep our eye on that one. But some interesting stuff, some good motions, some good back and forth from the prosecutors there. So rewind and hit that one if you missed it. We also talked about the Chinese spy who infiltrated Kathy Hochul and Governor Cuomo's office. A wild story on that one. Apparently she was dictating their agenda and their schedule, snubbing Taiwanese presidents. You're not coming up, changing their speeches. And they just found out about it. So we got that. And then Elon wins the motion to dismiss from Media Matters. A nice victory on that. Hopefully he gets paid big damages, baby, out of Media Matters booty. All good news. And now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Let's see what you say about this. Thank you so much for the amazing donos and for being here. I think we had, was the audio on this entire time? Wow, amazing. Okay, good job, Rob. Yay. All right. So, yeah, that's good. We're getting better at it. We're back home. We're back in the Valley. We had a great time up in Forest Lakes, getting some nice, cool air. And we're home. It's good to be home. All right, let's see who's here in the house today, my friends. I see we've got some amazing mods as well. What's up? Good to see the mods in the house. And look at this. Don't mind me clipping away for us. You can see, you know what day it is today, my friends? We all know what day it is. It's, where'd this go? It's Taco Tuesday, baby. It's Taco Tuesday in the house. And so it's good to see everybody. We've got Conservative CC in the house. Says, hey, what do you say? We had another baby today. What's up, Conservative CC? With the rhymes, too. Man, ill bars there. Amazing. What's up? That's a new baby in the house. And thanks for being here for 9 months, Conservative CC. Amazing. 9 months. That's a brand new baby in the house. We got this one from Knox Bierman. Says, happy Taco Tuesday, all. I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. It was great, Knox. It was great. Up there in the in nature, just basking in the glow of the trees, the sun, the fresh air, the chirping birds. It's like heaven. Hey, what's up? Conservative CC says, watching since 2022. Oh my goodness, Conservative. Thank you for that. That's a long time. We've been through some serious business, haven't we? Whew, got some battle scars on us. I don't usually always get to watch live, but I want you to know I'm always there in spirit. We need you. Thank you, Conservative CC. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here for so long and for joining us. We've been through some stuff. I think we're just getting started. We're just warming up here. We got a lot of work to do ahead of us, and we're excited about it. So thanks for joining us on the journey, Conservative. Thanks for being here, and I'm glad you were able to catch a live. It's amazing. What's up? Object Class Keeter says, make sure you don't mute yourself this stream. I think I did it. I think I did it today. There's still time. There's still time. It could still happen. There's still plenty of time. What's up, Lenny Malley? Hey, reminding everybody to please smash that like button. Thank you, Lenny, for that reminder. And thank you for sharing it. Very simple buttons to press that share button. Share it with someone, a friend or family member. You could tell them I forced you to do it. Just blame me. Just say this guy on YouTube is a real pain in my butt. Okay, he made me send this to you, so just watch it. It's okay. It's all right. Well, I can take it. What's up, Knox? Hey, this one from Rick Donner. What's up, Rick Donner? Rick Donner is bringing in 5 new membos. Don't mind me, Ahmad got a membo gift. Well-deserved. Don't mind me coming in. What's up, Patriot Wheel? Gail Gifford in the house. We got Stephanie Pickering and Deb Shaw gifted membos courtesy of Rick Donner in the house. What's up, Rick? Thank you for that. We got Knox Bierman says, Rob, the New York bunch could care less about immunity buckets. I think that's true. They might as well be bozo buckets. A reference old peeps like me will get. They are going to throw him in jail. They need to do it as their candidate is a wino and their platform is a turd floating in a punch bowl. Knox. So Knox is a defense attorney in Texas. It's like, oh my gosh. You think they're going to put Trump in jail? Look, like every fiber of my being is saying, obviously they're going to. Like, obviously. Just add it up. And we've been pretty consistent here on this. Like, long before Trump ever got indicted, we were here saying they're going to indict Trump. And I remember there are a lot of people out there, you don't have to admit it if you don't want to, but there were a lot of people saying, Rob, don't be so negative. You know, they're not going to indict him. That's crazy. And we were sitting here saying we were doing walk and talks. I remember saying like, this is crazy, but they have to, they have to indict him. Remember, that was the argument. We've been saying this for years. They have to indict him because if they've been telling us that he stole America, wrecked American democracy or whatever, like the only logical conclusion to that for somebody who is like Hitler, the worst attack on American democracy since the Civil War, they literally say that. So what do you do with somebody who is responsible for that? You have to indict them. You have to prosecute them. You have to jail them. You have to. It's the only logical conclusion. But at the same time, if they put Trump in jail, I don't know. That's pretty much, I think, game over. I think it wrecks the institutions catastrophically. And I don't know that they can even bite that off. I don't know. That's why it's my reservation. It's like, I don't know. I don't know that they can do it. The indictments, yeah, but jailing him right now, like jailing him in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, Trump's in jail. I just don't know that they can do it. It would be like, I think, the start of a really big problem. I hope they don't. I really hope they don't. I pray they don't. It would be a real big problem for them. For all of us. It'd be a big problem for all of us if that happens. But also, if you add it up, obviously they have to. Like, what are they going to do? They're going to get all the way up to sentencing and say, we're going to put you on probation. Are you kidding? I would be sitting here mocking them into oblivion for that. Like, are you nuts? You guys just got done telling us that this guy was like just one court short of Adolf, right? Like the worst attack on American democracy. He's like And you're going to let him off on probation after all of this. He stole a 2000s and you're going to let him off? Like, you guys are seriously? And if they do it, if they put him in, we're going to, woo, boy. There will be, I think, a very big response to that. A very, very, very big response, which I don't think that they can handle. But they're also getting, like you say, Knox, backed into a corner. All right, that'd be a fun one to really game out. All right, Jennifer, what's up, Jennifer? On Rumble, what's up? Shout out to our Rumble friends. Says, praying Trump doesn't get sentenced to prison, but even if he does, won't he be put under house arrest as they can't send him to Rikers? They would have to clear out the entire prison for him. So that's been my cop-out justification, okay, is that they actually, if you're going to mash these two together, the one thing that I think, and I've made this point before, they'll use some sort of language like you'll serve a term of incarceration, but on home detention or something like that, so that they can say he's been sentenced to a term of incarceration, but he'll do it on home detention. And if they can allow that, right, then they can sell it to their side as Trump was sentenced to prison. But then Trump, I actually think this would be the best outcome for them and the worst outcome for our side, is for them to sentence Trump to a term of incarceration to be served on home detention with house arrest. And so you can think of, you can go to jail and get work release, for example, right? States have these provisions. You go to jail, but you get work release. You got to just report back to jail for the nighttime. So same thing. So Trump is serving a term of incarceration. It's on house arrest or a home detention, whatever the program is, with work release so that he could go out and campaign. And then they would say, right, all the lefties would say, Trump is getting special privilege. Trump is not being punished like anybody else would. So they'll cry foul. They won't put him in jail because that would be way too much for them to bite off, because there'll be a total reaction. Trump not physically going into jail would mute a lot of the reaction from the other side because he's still out and he's not physically in jail. I think the physical incarceration, I don't know how they can I don't know how they can physically incarcerate him. I think that there would be a lot of problems. And even just thinking about it's like, ugh. So hopefully they don't do that. But I've been reading stories. Nobody really knows. I've been reading stories that they want to put him in Rikers. Like, there's all these headlines, like, and a lot of it I think is Democrat, just kind of masturbatory material. They read headlines every day. Rikers jail staff are preparing for Trump. They're going to put Trump in a bucket. They got pictures of the cells and stuff. And they eat that up, man. They love it. Go look at some of these lefty YouTube channels too. Hundreds of thousands of views every day. Trump's going to jail. Next day, Trump's going to jail. We're finally going to get him. So yeah, and Secret Service protection as it applies to the president is also a problem, right? Secret Service would have to basically go in there with him. I think their jurisdiction is concurrent or superseding. So we don't want that to happen. We do not want to be jailing our political opponents. But if you think about the logical extension, remember, they indicted him multiple times. They raided his house. They, through incompetency or through complicity, they got him shot in the head. I mean, why would they not put him in jail? Why would they not? It's like the logical extension. But even that, if they put him in jail, it's like we're in a whole different game. The whole game changes. What's up, Sheila? Sheila the Pooh, a million hugs to you, is bringing in 5 new membos. We got Brandon Graham in the house. Terry Fields, Chris Lucas is coming in. Donna Foster and SCVM. Gifted membos in the house. Thank you so much, Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thanks for bringing them in. We got Salty Sarge says, I can't believe that Merchant, the judge, is still playing the mother may I grift, filing to file, death by bureaucracy. Yeah. Oh, yes, I see. The pre-motions. You have to file your permission slip. You have to file, it's death by bureaucracy. Yeah, because he didn't want Trump dropping those big, juicy motions on his docket, which were delicious. We loved it. We were reading through all those. Like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So he says, stop that. Get a permission slip to file first. And that's over from Salty Sarge. Rick Donner says, what's up, Rick? Over on Local. Says, Rob, good to see you home safe. As a lawyer, how different is state from federal law? Seems to be a huge difference. Yeah, it's a huge difference. I'd say it's a huge difference. It's federal law is much bigger. And it's, I would say, a little bit more, what's a good analogy? It's probably like going from, I don't know, like not to be belittling to state courts at all, but it's a different. I'd say it's like from going from like high school to college level, or maybe it's from college to pro. Like if you're an athlete, like think of it as athletes. So the demeanor, the tone, the tenure, like state courts a little bit more chill. Federal courts like serious business, right? State court you can kind of joke with the judges, and sometimes federal courts totally different. So it's a level of intensity that's different than state courts. State courts a lot of the time you can get stuff. I mean, I'm sure if you're practicing in federal courts for 20 years, you probably get that same vibe. I didn't do that, but it's a little bit of a different vibe. But the mechanics are, once you understand the mechanics, it's procedure, it's just law, it's rules. It's different rules, right? Your federal law, federal rules versus state law, state rules. So yeah, it's different. It's definitely different. And that's a great question. What's up? Elf is in the house. Thank you, Elf, for bringing in new membos. Caroll Charters coming in. We got Cheryl Patrick, Mike Sue in the house. Chinny Win coming in, and Ulsterman, all gifted membos courtesy of Elf, bringing in the newest of membos. Sheila Poo with a nice dono. Thank you, Sheila. Says, E. Jean Carroll is a liar. She could not even give them a date of when it supposedly happened. No physical evidence, way past the statute of limitations, to the point that they had to change the law to even bring the suit. You're exactly right about that, Sheila Poo. They created that Adult Survivors Act in New York. And actually, what's amazing is the lawyer who helped E. Jean Carroll bring that. E. Jean Carroll and Roberta Kaplan were involved in getting the law changed so they could bring their suit. And E. Jean is, in my opinion, just an unwell person who just has a sex obsession, names her cats like vagina, stuff like that. And nobody could talk about it at trial. She called like two friends. They both thought she was whacked. She had a photo in a photo lineup with Trump ages ago. Couldn't remember the exact year it was. Witnesses were trash. She couldn't remember anything. Jury said she was a liar. She never got properly cross-examined because you couldn't ask her about anything, right? She wrote like rape fantasies and stuff. Weird woman. Anyways, thank you, Sheila. Yeah, I think she's a liar too. And the jury does too. I think the jury does too. They found that she was not credible on that first count. Object Class Keeter says, any update on the Georgia case? Wisconsin and Arizona cases too. Well, not really. I mean, Georgia, I think, is just on hiatus pending appeal. Remember that we appealed the disqualification ruling with Fani Willis. McAfee allowed it to go up for appeal. The Court of Appeals accepted it. And I think we've got some oral argument dates scheduled after the election. Arizona cases, that's worth doing an update on. And Wisconsin, we haven't zoomed in on those in particular, largely because Trump's not indicted in those, but the other alternate electors certainly are. And so those are due up for an update. You're right about that, Object Class. Thank you, Object. We got GSG McLovin in the house. 13 months as a membo. Thank you, GSG McLovin, for all 13 months. That's a baker's dozen. Says, these spies sound like fall people. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's not like the mastermind of the organization at all. She's just a useful idiot. I mean, like literally a useful idiot, government, diversity, equity person. Fine. Doesn't even matter. Not the real brains. Sheila Poo, 5 more membos coming in, courtesy of Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. Hello, Kidden is coming in. CL is here. Philippa C. Jessica C. And we got Jittery Hobo in the house, courtesy of Sheila Poo. Thank you, Sheila, for the 5 new membos, and welcome aboard, new membos. Object Class Keeter says, the mafia and gang bosses during the height of the guild era and organized crime said, Dem politicians were easier to bribe than Republicans. I guess that still holds true. Yeah, I don't know if it holds true or not, but it certainly looks like there's a pattern here. We've got Menendez, who just got convicted. We've got this Chinese spy who was embedded in 2 administrations. It's a lot. What's up, Sheila Poo? Welcome, new membos. Many brought in by you, Sheila. Thank you for that. It says like and share this channel. Thank you, Sheila. Gosh, such a good reminder. And I appreciate you helping me get that message out there because I'm kind of bad about saying it. MAGA hat stays. Look at this one, baby. Heck yeah. It's like one of those movies. Making America Great Again. All right, we got that one. We got another one from MAGA hat stays. Here's one. Trump and Lady Liberty. What a beautiful sight. Thank you, MAGA hat. Rick Donner says, why did they not charge her with treason? She took the oath of citizenship. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I wonder. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Maybe because it was not like in a time of war about war things. It was too diplomatic, right? It wasn't like necessarily military related. I wonder what the threshold is at the DOJ, in other words. When's the last person that was charged with treason? When's the last time that's even been charged? This old guy says, so Sun figured out how to get free lunches from the Taiwan reps, but was pissed off she wasn't getting free coffees from the PRC dude. Free coffees. Yeah, she wasn't happy she wasn't getting something from him. I don't know if it was coffees or what, but something else. Roasted duck. She wanted some serious roasted duck, not the kind you eat, you know what I'm saying? Chubby, what's up? Says, it will be interesting to hear Taiwan's response to all this CCP spy information and political sabotage coming to light. Can't imagine they'll be happy about it. No, of course not. They're all sitting around like, do you know that Linda woman that we tried to get coffee with like 30 times? Like, yeah, Linda. Yeah. She was like so rude to me all the time. Well, it turns out she was a Chinese spy. You're like, I knew it. All these Taiwanese people like, I knew it. She was totally. Yeah, we know. Hey, this one from MAGA hat stays. There's another good one of Trump. This one came in from Hollow Weird. What's up, Hollow Weird? Says, do you think that Trump should enact a presidential order to get rid of HR 4310, Section 1085? Curious on your opinion of it. Let me access my memory banks. I think it's caused so much harm in the last few years. Well, that sounds like a great take. So I'm going to adopt your take on that. It sounds extremely intelligent. Thank you for that, Hollow Weird. Knox Bierman says, these overlord wannabes don't understand that we as a people have always talked to each other in person without oversight. Yeah, well, they don't want that because otherwise you can think freely and communicate openly. And that is very, very dangerous to them. Thank you, Knox. What's up? Lady Ice says, they have spies in every institution they possibly can. That's their strategy. Every small town, every big city, every federal state office or agency, every school board, everything. How do you fit an elephant through a needle eye? One small piece at a time. How do we lose democracy and our freedoms? One small piece at a time. Sheila Poo with more membos. What's up, Sheila? Wood Spirit is coming in. Alex Winslow's in the house. S23, welcome. Terry Burns and Jim Gerard. All gifted membos courtesy of Sheila Poo. What's up? Stacy Milliken is here. Thank you, Stacy, for being a membo and bringing in 5 more membos. Stacy Milliken in the house. We got Steph Ard, Kevin Murphy, Beautifully Inappropriate, Brian Howell, and Mike Bennett. Gifted membos courtesy of Stacy Milliken. Thank you, Stacy. And hey, what's up, Sheila? Thank you, Sheila. Sheila Poo. Great show as always, Rob. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Sheila. Really, thank you a lot. You're bringing in a ton of membos. And we know the new membos are hopefully enjoying it. We did not do a membos only stream this morning. I apologize for that. I was on the road. But we'll be back to our regular schedule tomorrow. So new membos, we'll see you tomorrow. What's up, Rick D? And new YouTube membos, grab the Telegram link, which is in the members only community tab section. And we'll see you here in a minute for our after party with our membos. Rick Donner, what's up? Says, I see and hear right and left wing on X now, as well as neutral. I listen to all and shocker, make my own decisions. Crazy, I know. Yeah, Rick, you think for yourself? What kind of a weird person are you? Oh my gosh. You should probably see a doctor. I think they have a pill for that. Oil Smoke Jones says, tinfoil hat folks are reporting accommodations being made for Trump at Rikers. Sometimes this week's foil is next week's news. That's what I'm saying, Oil Smoke. I'm seeing those headlines too. Like our friend Rick Donner, I'm also on X. I see a lot of it. I see a lot of them talking really excited about Trump's going to jail. They're giving him extra small clothes or something like that. He's not going to have his, okay, relax, you weirdos. Thank you, Oil Smoke Jones. I'm seeing it too. Rick Donner says, there is a part of me that hopes that Judge Mercan from Cuba, I think he was from, I don't know that was it Cuba or was it something else? Colombia. I think it was Colombia. Judge Colombia is not that dumb, but I have no faith in that at this point. It might be Cuba. It could be Colombia. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. This judge is pretty disconnected from reality. So if anybody's going to sentence Trump to jail, I think it could be this judge, right? He donated to Biden. He hates Trump. And he probably wants to make a name for himself. So I could see him do it. I mean, I really could. But it would also be the most insane moment, maybe in our political lives. I really think it could be that consequential. Might be the end of the country, just to be clear. All right, to not mince words. What's up, Rick? Thanks for that. Knox says, I hope I'm wrong, but to me, they got all these acting judges and fake special prosecutors. No one with real professional ethics would have even taken these cases. I know, you're right, Knox. I know. Jack Smith is not even a real boy. Illegal. And took $24 million out of the public slush fund. It's a coup, essentially, right? It's the government taking out political opponents using the arm of the government. Totally unethical. I'm not banking on their ethics. I'm banking on their recognition that the response from the American people would be something that would be the end of their power, ultimately. And I don't mean through violence at all. I mean through legitimacy and credibility. And the country will fracture. And the election would basically be inconsequential, I think. If they try to throw Trump in jail. I don't think he's going to go to jail either. Hey, what's up? Libby T says, could Congress do anything about Trump not going to jail? Yeah, I think Rick's right. No. What are they going to do? Legally, technically, nothing. What jurisdiction do they have? Nothing. Can they defund them? Yeah. Are they? No. Nothing. Send some letters. Whine about it. What's up? Tanya Karras says, what's up, Tanya? Good to see you, Tanya. Happy Taco Tuesday. I almost forgot. It's great to see you, Tanya. Tanya is a long-standing Taco Tuesday purveyor of fine Taco Tuesday menus and recipes. And we're great to see you, Tanya. Thanks for stopping by on the locals. Hope you're having a beautiful Tuesday with some tacos. Hey, Jeremiah says, as a Marine, I remember that New York City refused to light the Empire State Building in U.S. Marine Corps colors, red and gold, for the birthday multiple times, but they actually had the bulbs ready to go because they honored the CCP. And when I complained about the commies in New York City, I was called a conspiracy theorist. Well, today we all got the beginning of our vindication. And these are some links saying multiple landmarks were lit up for China. And there it is. Yeah, those are what some of those links are. Maybe it was Linda Wan signing up, turning those on, turning off at the American flags, turning on the CCP flags. Hey, what's up, Brian? Brian Reinhart, 15 months as a membo, says, how was Donald J. Trump convicted of federal counts in state court? Well, because the courts are rigged. Yeah, well, they weren't actual federal counts. So the way this worked, Brian, is very convoluted, Brian. It's a great question. But remember, Trump was charged with state crimes. One of the state crimes was basically that Trump changed some documents in order to commit another crime. There was a state charge of falsifying documents for the purpose of covering up or committing another crime, put you in this different subsection, and it turned it into basically a felony. If the underlying crime was a felony, I'm sorry, that's not even true. If there was an underlying crime that you were trying to cover up, then you could count that. But even if it was a misdemeanor underlying offense, it would still elevate it into a felony. Okay, so that's how they got it into past the statute of limitations. Now that other crime, one of which you did not have to have unanimity on that. So it could have been a tax crime. It could have been a federal election crime. It could have been whatever you wanted, basically. There were three options. The judge just said, pick what you want. And so many people picked, we think, the federal election crime, even though that was not charged. but it was an other crime that they tucked in there, even though the federal government reviewed that crime and didn't charge Trump with it because he didn't commit the crime. No, Brian, wouldn't Trump have to be convicted of the underlying crime to raise it to a felony? No, that's not what the judge ruled. The judge just said if there's evidence of that other crime, it satisfies that element. And you can convict him of the forgery and the fraud related to that cover-up. So you don't have to be charged of the underlying offense. Because actually the way the statute was written, it wasn't that you committed the crime. It's a great question, but the statute covered it. It said with intent, I think, to commit another crime. So it's not like you actually did it. It's if you intended to do it. So you don't actually have to have the underlying conviction. Great question. What's up? Knox says, in state court, we have a fighting chance for the defense. Federal court has sentencing guidelines and they take themselves way too seriously. We bare knuckle it in the state court. It's a great phrase. Yeah, it's much like that. Like you can have fun with prosecutors and you can have fun with judges and things are a little bit more cordial in state court, but it is a lot more just like raw, like face to face, just duke it out, getting screaming matches, whatever. It's a little bit more real. Federal court's it's a lot more uptight. It's like, it feels like, I think the difference between college and the NFL, probably. Jennifer, what's up, Jennifer? On YouTube says, please join us in chat at Off Label Podcast after Rob's show and for Eddie Block's Films channel at 6 p.m. We got a whole lineup here tonight. That's amazing. Thank you, Jennifer. 2 great recommendations, Off Label Podcast and our friend Eddie Block, 6 p.m. tonight. Rick Donner. Thank you, Jennifer. Rick Donner says, last person actually convicted of treason, thank you for looking that up, was Tomaya Kawakita, 1952, according to the DOJ. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, it's been a while. I don't think it's been used recently. And so what was the basis of that? Was that like national security secrets or war stuff? Is probably what that was. After World War II, things are a little bit spicy, things a little bit prickly there in the aftermath. What's up? KXFMX says, just a quick reminder, we briefly covered the Benny Thompson bill, HR 8081, which is going to strip felons of any government-provided protection. They are not going to stop until Trump is jailed and neutralized. Gosh, I know. Logically, it makes total sense. It's just a sick state of affairs if they do it. Yeah, and we covered that. Phishing Benny Thompson. So the idea was Secret Service protection gets paused and the jurisdiction of protection of the president transfers over to the jailing facility. So the jails will be responsible for keeping Trump alive. Just like they did with Jeffrey Epstein. All right, so Salty Sarge on Rumble says, I bet they will even let Trump walk in the yard with the general population. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good thesis. I don't know that it would get to that. But I don't know. Also, large portions of this country are pretty much checked out. So, we had a whole country get locked down and businesses stripped away, people deprived of their livelihood, their freedom, their bodily autonomy. And a lot of people just kind of sat on their hands. Oh, well, the government said so. So, all right. So we'll see. But we're hopeful that it doesn't get there, that we don't cross that Rubicon, because that will not be good at all. But we are going to be prepared for it. We're going to be covering that aggressively and live streaming on that day, probably all day. So thanks for subscribing. All day with some nice, some nice relaxing music or something. Anyways, so we're over on X. Let's say hello to some X friends before we wrap it up on the day. What's up, Fred Pedamonte? Yeah, a 2022 Ferrari. Check that out. That's a lot. $500,000 is what Miss Equity CCP Spy had to say. Hey, what's up? Yeah, Ryan V says, hey, this is fun. Finally getting somewhere. Layers of the story unfolding. Tiff Dog says, love your videos. If not for these videos, wouldn't have any idea what's happening. We're grateful that you're here, Tiff Dog. Thanks for that. And we have James Pepper says, so the White House becomes a prison like it is for Joe. And Norm LeStorm says, listening now, wow, great info on Hochul. And meanwhile, the Canadian government won't release the names of our current and past MPs who've been compromised by the CCP. Yeah. And we also had, remember, Eric Swalwell, who made Bang Bang with that CCP spy called Fang Fang. Bang Bang with Fang Fang, the CCP spy. And that story got really kind of papered over pretty quickly as well, didn't it? So, all right, well, I'm sure they're everywhere. We'll see if our government can find the rest of them. It's like, where's Waldo? But all right, so my friends, Ollie, what's up, Ollie? Ollie is bringing in 5 new membos. Danny Link is coming in. Sketch Therapy. E.T. got gifted a membo. Chillaxin in the house. And Laura Soto, gifted members courtesy of Ollie. And so thank you, Ollie, for bringing them in. Very grateful to have our newest of membos. New membos on YouTube. There's a community tab section in the channel page. So click that. You'll grab the Telegram link. We're going to continue the live stream over there right now for our after party. We'd love to have you join us. But we are going to call it a day. If we don't see you over there, we will be back here tomorrow to get into it again. We want to thank our mods, K-Bean, Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zach Nichols, Janek, Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, and Zulu, clipping away for us, making the day oh so nice and beautiful. But that, my friends, is going to be it for us here on this lovely Tuesday. We are going to go over to locals, available in the description below, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, YouTube membos on Telegram, and we'd love to see you over there. But if we don't, we are going to be back here tomorrow to get into it all again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.